All right, now we're going to talk about, once you've got the unit powered up, what you're going to need to do in order to properly set up the DXM2 control as well as some of the other features that go along with this. So we've got our unit here powered up. Got our, right now you can see here our standard thermostat screen display. Now I'm going to put it in the installer configuration mode. And how you do that is you depress the up and down arrow at the same time. So I'm going to do that, and you got to depress them and hold it for 5 seconds so that it'll go into that installer configuration. As you can see now, it's activating installer menu. And the first line item here, we're going to go through a few of these, is the thermostat configuration. Now, that area there has not changed in our thermostat lineup, but if you're not familiar with the thermostat lineup, I'm going to go in there so that you know what you've got to set up in that area. So I'm going to go ahead and depress the center button here, and you got the option of single stage or multi-stage. This 036 unit we have here is a multi-stage unit, so we're going to make sure that it's save that option. Then you have the option of multi-fuel, no auxiliary heat, or electric, meaning auxiliary heat. In this case here we have no auxiliary heat installed on this particular unit. Next you have the option of programmable, non-programmable, or night setback. We're going to go ahead and just choose non-programmable for now. Now we're back to that main installer setting screen. The next thing we're going to go to is the system configuration. So I arrow down to it and then hit the select button. Now this is where you can make airflow selection if you need to make an adjustment to the airflow. So I'm going to go ahead and just depress that so you can see the screen. Airflow selection here, we have heating stage 1, heating stage 2, emergency heat, auxiliary heat, cooling, dehumidification mode, continuous fan, as well as heat and cool off delay. Now these airflow settings here, I'm going to demonstrate in heating stage 1. You can make an adjustment by hitting the select button there in the center and then hitting the up or down arrow to increase or decrease. So you can see I'm decreasing that by 25 CFM increments. So I'll just move it down to 1,000 CFM and then hit the center button. Now initially it displays what it previously had, and you'll see here in a matter of a couple seconds going to the changed option of that 1,000 CFM. So that's how you make adjustments there in the airflow selection. Now it will have prescribed limits, upper and lower limits, that you can change that airflow within for the particular model that you're working with. So we'll now move out of the airflow selection here. So again, this is no longer done with dip switches. It's done through either the installer configuration tool or the communicating thermostat. Next thing is the option selection here. This is where you can make a change there if you were needed to make an adjustment to the LT2, which again previously was called FP2, as far as either being well or with an antifreeze option. Next thing is the unit configuration, what particular model you have. Again, we have an 036 model here. The next option we're going to go to is the blower type. So I'm going to scroll down here, and when we hit select, again our default that's been programmed in here from the factory is an ECM motor, because that's what this particular model has. But if we needed to make a change here for some reason, you'll see the other options that are under this, the PSC single speed, PSC dual speed, or none, or a PSC 2-speed. Then we got our ECM. Again, we're going to select that again because that's what this particular model has. And then the next option we're going to scroll down to is the loop configuration. And this particular model, again, been programmed from the factory. It does have an internal pump installed, but we'll hit select here and show you the other options. Either got a pump or we got that proportional valve. Again, the proportional valve would be utilized, either open loop, pump and dump some people call it, or also maybe we've got a couple units or multiple units on a common loop with a common variable speed pump. And again, this valve is going to open and close and adjust based on delta T at the unit, and then that common variable speed pump would be able to ramp up and down based on the amount of units operating at that time. We're going to go back now to the pump here, since that's what this particular model has. Back to pump. Here in a second you'll see that that'll save that option. Now we'll go ahead and back up here. The next thing is the pump configuration. This is where you make your adjustments, if necessary, for your delta T, from your entering to your leaving water temperature selection. So the defaults are in the heating 6 degrees and the cooling 10 degrees, as you see there. If we select the heating there, we can move it up. We can move it down as low as 5 degrees. And again, that will change your flow rate through the unit based on that delta T. That's how that variable speed pump operates. It's constantly looking at that delta T between entering and leaving water temperature. After you make your adjustment there at the delta T, we'll hit select. Now we're going to move back to the main menu here and the installer settings. Next option is accessory configuration. Again, this section here has not changed any in the thermostats. Again, you got the option there of air filter, humidifier, UV lamp, and air cleaner. We got our input dealer information. So again, you can input your dealer information in there so that if a fault ever did occur, it will come up on the stat for the homeowner to call you. Got our humidity configuration here. This is where you would choose again between dehumidification, humidification, both or none. We got the next option here is the temperature algorithm. So again, as the installer or setup, you'd have to make an option adjustment here, whether it be proportional integral, which is the default, or proportional integral with no downstaging, so that again, if it goes into second stage, it's going to finish on that second stage call before shutting down. Or we got differential. The next option there is a new one. Again, nothing you need to necessarily set up right from the beginning, but demand reduction configuration. Gives the option again, if you're in an area where utility companies, you might get a break if you put a demand reduction device in order to maybe limit second stage or auxiliary heat. Gives you that option. Next thing here is service mode. We're going to go ahead and click on it. And the first thing there is manual operation. So again, either from the thermostat or the service tool, you can put it into manual operation here, and you can actually give it the call that you want, and it will stay in that call as long as you're in the installer configuration. It will not, so it's basically in a sense like putting jumpers across the board, so it gives you that option. It's not going to be controlled based on temperature during the manual operating mode. You can also put it into test mode from here, so I'll demonstrate that by scrolling down here, and we'll put that into test mode here. It's now in test mode. Take it back out of test mode. And we'll exit out of the manual mode here. And the next thing is the control diagnostics. Once I click on that, the first screen here actually shows the physical input. Again, this would be if we had a jumpers actually on the board, or if we actually gave it a physical input there at the board. We also have our high pressure switch and our loss of charge switch there, showing that they're both closed, which is again normal operation for those two switches. We'll next hit the side arrow here, the right side arrow, to go to the next screen. And this screen actually gives you our different thermistor, the actual temperatures at those thermistors. Again, LT1, LT2 are the first two. Again, LT1 replaced what we used to call FP1. LT2 replaces what we used to call FP2. Compressor discharge, we got our hot water entering water temperature. We also have a leaving air temperature, which is taken basically at the blower. We have leaving water and entering water for our pump. We have our control voltage. We have the ECM blower RPM, if the blower was running. As you can see, currently it's 0. And our ECM target CFM. Again, what we have it actually set for, what we're trying to obtain. We also have ECM blower static. So we got our static pressure. The next screen, again hitting the next arrow there, the right-hand arrow. The next thing we see under control status is the pump operation. If our unit was operating right now, we'd be seeing the pump speed and then the pump watts, as well as the flow rate in GPM. So again, as you can see with what you can see here on the screen, you get a lot of information from this communicating stat or our setup tool. We'll now back out of this. And then the next thing under the service mode here is the dip switch configuration. In this screen here, we can actually see the position of our dip switches. As you can see there, our UPS is enabled. We can either turn that on or off and so forth. If I make a dip switch adjustment here, you'll see the actual change there on the screen. Again, that's dip switch bank 1. Here's bank 2. And then bank 3. Go ahead and get back out of this here. Back to the main service mode menu. The next thing is fault history. So again, if we had any faults on this system, they would show up here. And then our last option is to clear fault history. So if we had an issue, we resolved it, and we wanted to clear that out of memory, we could clear that there. We'll now back up to our main installer setting mode. And the last thing there is to restore defaults. So again, that is the installer settings.